Well, thank you very much, everyone. My name is Juan Garrido. Everyone calls me Juanito. My talk is about... Oh, by the way, this is 16 by 9, and this is a cinema. Do we have 16 by 9 in Kinepolis? That's my face on there, in there. So, Juan Garrido, everyone calls me Juanito. Triana in Twitter. I'm working as a security consultant at NCC Group, and my talk is a really tough one. It's a really tough one. I'm very grateful to the organizers, to Rooted, for inviting me along, but it's going to be a tough talk. Because, for example, yesterday, is Abel in the room? Abel Valero? I cannot see anything from here. So I've come here to talk about defensive security in Windows. Abel was here yesterday talking about all those things in Windows as well. So my talk is going to be a really difficult one. And then we've seen the demonstration with our drone. Wow, what a cool presentation. And then Roman cut himself. I hope Roman allows me to say the things I'm going to say. So I'm here to talk about defensive security. Remember, some 10-15 years ago, the only thing we had was development departments and IT departments. We could say that we lived in a perfect world because we would roll out, developers would commit the code. Many of the systems were simply not connected to the internet, so we lived in a happy world. Let me put it that way. But nowadays, this is no longer the story. 10-15 years down the road, the situation is extremely different. Nowadays, we have attacks everywhere. This is a piece of news that was quite striking. It hit the headlines some time ago. You probably remember that someone spied on Angela Merkel, on Rajoy, the Prime Minister of Spain. Well, our government asked the US government, and Washington acknowledged that they have been controlling millions of calls. But according to what our government said in Spain, they had no proof that anyone had been spied on. Rajoy had been spied on. It says, my father says that you are spying on us in the internet. And Obama says, he's not your father. So they're spying on us, we are spying on them. If governments have a chance, they will go for it. So during recent years, we've lived in an explosion of new services coming along. Companies like Hacking Team. Oh, they've made a Trojan and they're selling it to governments. Anyone here is a security auditor? Just two? I don't think so. Is this a medical conference or what? There must be more people around. Who is a developer in the room? Who is the director for insecurity? Everyone. In LinkedIn, especially. I love LinkedIn. People are so cool in their profiles on LinkedIn. How about hacking Ashley Madison? Remember? They don't leave us alone, not even to go for a screw. And this one was a tough one. Because we found out that in this company, a very significant proportion of people corresponded to women. Women that had fake profiles. Fake profiles. People would go into the network, enter Ashley Madison to see if they could have a chance, and there was nothing. Nothing they could get. Because it was fake profiles. But we are IT guys. We don't really date with girls, do we? So we have to love ourselves, basically. Well, not even to love ourselves are we left alone with things like the like CryptoLocker and that stuff. So we have lots of problems. This is a big bummer. Anyone here having problems with CryptoLocker in their company? Anyone paid? Obviously, everyone will say no. There's people out there that pay because, as things stand, there are so many variants for which keys are unknown. We have a big problem in our hands, and we need to protect the data. We need to protect the data inside our company, inside our corporation, because for us, or for the majority of people working for companies, the most important thing is our salary check. At the end of each month, if we don't get our check, we have a problem. If we are not paid after 2 months, we have a fucking problem. But if they steal the data from the company, they do have a big, big problem. And then we have hackers and security auditors. There must be lots of you doing auditing. Just a question from me. How do you feel when you get a root account in a system and you get granted access to everything? How do you feel when you have a hash for a domain administrator and you can get anywhere? Let me tell you, we feel fucking well. It's like butterflies in your guts. It's like dating a girl for the first time. I know what it is like. It's like dancing flamenco for the first time. We feel so good. But what makes us feel that we've done a really good job has another side. When we realize that our company has a problem. Because security has been evolving, and now there are lots of new profiles in different companies. We now have developers, we have forensics experts, support people, the security guys, the defense guys, then we have the armed forces, the police. So we have lots of profiles that have been defined in one way or another and that need specific procedures. Fixing a security problem may be extremely costly and it may take a very long time for any company. I was talking to Selby the other day. Where is he? I was talking to Selby. Oh, he's up there. Okay. So I was talking to Selby and I was saying, well, this is what I'm expecting to include in my presentation. By the way, man, when you have to talk about security in your company, do people pose a lot of objections? No, I just use my root count and I go for it. I always say that security is the most important thing. But then another question from me. Those of you that work in a company doing defensive work, I know there's lots of you doing that. Do you have lots of problems or a lot of obstacles from other people in your company when implementing new security measures? Do you? All of you find reluctance in your colleagues. So we do our job, we have access, we get wherever we need to get, and we fix the problem. We mustn't forget that we are getting paid to be able to find solutions to the problems we encounter. So in the report that we send, I always stress how important it is to fix whatever comes up. Because the customer doesn't care what tool you use to fix the problem.
So client wants to know how you can fix it, how we can fix it. So my talks today is about how to repair security breaches. So many security incidents, over 80,000 incidents back in 2015, last year. Only 2,000 of them had been properly sorted out. Phishing as the main element, 23%. Attachment, 11%. Many people working at companies receive an attachment in their companies and workplaces, and they click on that without knowing they are activating a vulnerability. Crypto lockers are also a big concern and threat. But not you cannot put the blame on everything on an attack. You know, NASA launched the Ariane 5 rocket in 1996. The source code was not audited properly, so the rocket collapsed and went down. The rocket is launched. At NASA, everybody is very happy, and the rocket goes down. My goodness, you know how does it cost? $370 million. One of the costliest and most expensive failures in NASA due to an integer overflow software failure. The same applies to Google, the Mars Climate Orbiter. Apple Maps had a lot of failures, shitty failures. Response capacity. Oh, it makes me so sad, my friends. Notice so many cases. Takes months to sort it out. I mean, the security incident takes months and months of time invested. So, time-consuming, long-term fixing problems. So we need agile and down-to-earth procedures in security because we know abilities to safeguard information, which is the real point, safeguard and guaranteed information, not destroy. The key issue, the key problem is very difficult sometimes to confront a threat. Some people will tell you, take on the intrusion. We need to take on the intrusion by focusing on the risk analysis with audits, and stop the intrusion. But you go to the client. And this pre-sale person goes to the client and tells the client, hey man, Selby, you have to take on the intrusion. You have to accept it. I don't know what Selby would say. I know what I say. Oh, fuck you off. How am I going to be sitting around watching this intrusion? Should I have and take on somebody intruding me? Should I take on intruders? Not at all. I have to improve the internal procedures by improving the services to avoid an intrusion. To make the intrusion as difficult as possible. As of today, I repeat once again that operating systems have so many protections. I will focus on only three options: malware, hacking, and incident response. Operating systems, once again, operating systems, we don't have to set up and configure many elements on the operating systems to defend ourselves, to stand up for our company. This is my talk. This is the key point of my... security is super cool. Ransomware. Within ransomware, this company, many people calling me because of ransomware at their home places, at the households, and at the corporate level. Even the CNI, that is Spain's intelligence center, released a document to protect ransomware with security measures last year. An increase because the business model makes so much money. So this increase means that many antivirus companies have considered ransomware one of the biggest threats in 2015. How can we prevent it inside our companies? We have some proximities. Some security departments are very concerned about security issues the moment they're free enough to take some actions with their file servers. We also have security departments we are not aware at all because some elements inside the company prevent them from moving around freely. We can find companies not having security departments, such as a small or medium company. Some of you are working into systems. Raise your hands, please. There is a craftsman or a handyman here doing everything other companies. I can see some faces over here. Nobody's now raising their hands. So the company cannot consider risks as such. There are some companies that say, okay, I'm vulnerable, I'm invincible, or some companies consider there are no risks at all. For instance, let's focus on the data. Let's protect data and data, not only with backups. Windows and Microsoft have certain services that you are paying for with your licenses. So file servers with Microsoft, you have the FSRM file server resource manager paid with a license with based upon metadata internally included. Metadata are an element which is very good for companies if they are used properly. Based upon file server resource managers metadata, and some max applies regularly in that files. Should there be any user trying to sneak in some files onto somebody, you can do as well. It's action reaction. You can start the decision taking process. You can monitor, or you can do a different thing. In my case, I used it a lot when I had to order certain elements of a file server, which is in very bad condition, disorganized, disarranged. This service comes in handy because you can define both expressions regularly. You can move all the documents having this criteria or meeting this characters change inside the text. Is very useful to rearrange a file server and to prevent ransomware as well. It's not designed for that purpose, but it comes in handy as well. So I want to show you some machines now on screen for you guys.
Y esto lo tengo yo montado en un Windows Server 2012, por ejemplo.
This is set up on this kind of Windows machine. You can see now on screen. I'm gonna set up 3 machines. This is my client. Now it's going to be infected for this case study purpose. When I created this demo, when I prepared this demo in Triana, Andalusia, southern Spain, and I got these virtual resources compressed in T writing. I got in the malware forum. Please give me a crypto loca. You know the rest of the story. Difficult situation back at the time. For instance, you can get a file server with several shared resources. So far, so good. I share resources, and this is pointing at certain users. We can find several files on screen. I take some of them. I would take this. I would put on here. If you have to use this service, FSRM, you will be able to apply certain masks which define a series of elements to be monitored. In this case, I took on all the files. I won't discriminate for anything. From one shared resources, I will leave that all my users put on whatever they like in order for them to work with no problems at all. But I will impose certain limits and protections. Limits imposed with certain templates, as you can see on the screen. Here, we can define a template in which players insert all the files, and there is an option and allow the user to introduce, and I won't do anything else. But if you find something, you can send me an email, and please indicate to me what is going on here. I will introduce a visor and I will apply a command. Here we can be more or less restricted. I opted to be more restricted in the event of finding certain issues. In this case, I apply a script, the kill user session, which takes the user and eliminates all the privileges that user has on that file server. In the worst case possible, I may have IT call. Hey man, I cannot access the file server, man. Then I apply it on to when here we can see now on screen. I had a question. I can apply it over the hard disk directly, but I opted to apply it on a share resource hidden, which is hidden. In this hidden share resource, I only have a text file with anything, empty. But I have defined the share resource with a underscore. Why? Because by default on Windows, the buffers folder by default Windows go up down. If the CryptoLocker developer uses the AIPIs from the operating system, will tell the system please scan files. Windows malware will do it from up to down, taking my very first folder. I got my empty file here. Empty, totally empty. It's a empty folder. So far so good. The same applies here. Just except for this file, please don't get on my nerves. This translates into the fact that if we have a user which is my Pepito, we should be able to access this resource.
Bueno, están en la misma red.
You are on this very same network, my fellow. Oh, this is the demo moment going on.
¿Qué pasa aquí, colega?
What's going on here, buddy? What's going on here, buddy?
Está off, tío.
Oh, this guy is off.
Cérrate la puerta a ver si les oye hablar a estos.
Ahora.
We got it now. What's going on here, man? No idea. This is Windows. Windows on the go. And I standing up for Windows right here on stage. What I'm saying, I have a very fucking talk over here. So let's now take this on screen and let's put CryptoLocker over here. We directly execute the scripts from CryptoLocker malware will delete all the backup copies on my system, and in this very case, it will be using the shadow copy to delete everything internally. Oh, it screwed up all my files. It shows me that the very first image, theoretically speaking, if everything works fine, the, I won't be able to access the network resources. Data, the data without being able to decipher something, but the network resources. Let's move to the sales area. On sales, something was ciphered and encoded, but just a little bit. These are the ones. It was able to cipher the file we can see here. It ciphered it, but what script does as follows. The script takes the user and denies access. At an administration level, I'm sleeping, I'm snoring. It goes through optical fiber. At an administration level, it should have sent me an email, and even it should have sent me even an event that I would be able to put it on my this one Pepito tried to keep rubbish inside. So once again, what on earth am I doing, man? Service is stopped. I will send an email, by the way.
Tengo la máquina.
Oh, this machine is not working properly. Let's send an email and let's check it. This thread would be stoppable in this way. We can also opt to the fact that if the security department is totally aware, this can lead us to the conclusion that the people in charge, I can't find the word, people in charge of, people responsible for eliminating these threats inside the company, we here can filter out. We can create max with the extension of CryptoLocker. I tried it, I checked it out in some companies. I tried it in, like I said, in some companies, and in the variant is this part is better because it will give us many more positive falses, but we can eliminate this type of false positives. Now, authentic code. As of today, but over the past 20 years, we can sign the executables. Those processes onto the system can be digitally signed on Windows. It's a certificate language application with a signing of authorization with somebody with the authorization to do so. We compute a hash inside the certificate and the operating system based upon some rules you have defined. It will be able to define based upon that hash if the file and the process has been modified or not. Certificates are used for a full range of purposes, not only for signature for SSL, sign BitLockers, applets, suffering, creation of drivers, and on Windows is defined through the policy you can see on the screen flag cell sign policy. Based upon this policy, we'll be able to increase or diminish the way this operating system is going to execute certain processes onto the system. So, for this purpose, the operating system needs to differentiate what belongs to Windows per se, what belongs to Microsoft or third parties per se, my application, not your application. Based upon these things, several levels have been defined, plus other levels which, for future purposes, are there. For instance, if the operating system has an unchecked level, the same applies if you introduce a sign or not sign process. If you introduce or insert an authentic code, the operating system will only execute processes signed digitally with the authentic code from and by Microsoft. Level 8, the operating system will only execute processes owned by Microsoft and signed by the Microsoft certifying authority. And so on applies to the next levels. Let's move on to an operating system such as 8.1.
Ahora viene momentazo pantallazo azul.
Now the blue snapshot moment. We can see now this box. We can execute it. I got the calculator. The calculator is the very first thing I removed for making exploits. This process is not signed. I got now the super moment of the blue snapshot. I'm going to introduce instruction onto the kernel. I will enlarge this image for you to see it properly.
Vamos a decirle que coja.
Please take the symbols directly from the root. Previously downloaded from the internet. And directly I inserted what I want to all see. Through this policy, thanks to this flag, we will define how the operating systems will operate. We modify the memory on the fly, super blue snapshot moment. If we modify and we put it on the 4, now the operating system will be only able to accept processes signed with authentic code. And we execute the put. Pay attention. The operating system cannot. Windows cannot verify the digital signature. We try to execute calculator. The calculator will be continue and working. This if this program is signed by Microsoft entity, will be executable. If we apply the most restrictive one, or one of the most restrictive, the calculator won't work. Now the calculator is not working with this. Depending on how you define the policy I mentioned before, the cell signing policy. So we can execute or not. It varies. Why am I saying this to you, my friends? Basically because of it has to do with the processes, the protected process. If we use this technology to stop the mimicat elements, which allows you to horizontally or vertically, you can escalate inside the company. Here we're gonna have something which is the protected processes. How much time do I have left? Protected processes are introduced on Windows Vista. Basically speaking, it's an element introduced by the operating system which restrict processes as to speaking with protected processes by the operating system, which are considered protected by the operating system, and revoke the access rights. Writing, reading, only protected processes will be able to access protected processes. Plus, the integrity levels in the operating system, which is also introduced on Windows Vista. The integrity levels define that highly defined integrity process will be able to communicate, read, and write about other processes at their same level of protection and below, and medium range processes would only be able to read high processes, and low processes will be able to interact with the low processes, period. So far so good. At protected processes level, we'll be able to, I'm going mounting this, and this is triggers the fact that if we open the tax administrator on Windows on the details area, for example, we try to stop this process onto the system, and I'm the administrator of this process per se myself. Notice that I got a denied access because you cannot do so. The authorizations order are not reaching this. If we directly see how this behaves at a kernel level, if we take the process from SMSS directly, we take the memory address and we ask about the protection level. Notice that this protection has a well-defined level of protection, that if we now ask about that, process 00 tasking, we ask the task manager about this, which is the process we want to kill. Notice now, this has one level of protection, and this is missing one level of protection. If we do the same with the process explorer, even though we are doing that with all the levels as administrator, not having this level of protection, they cannot communicate in between. This results in the fact that if we can stop the minicat in the company, we want to minimize this kind of attacks. If we want to stop it from Windows 8.1, a new feature and key of registry has been introduced with the run ASPPL datum button. We are telling the operating system that in everything referred to the local security authority managing the credentials of the operating system. If somebody is asking in the memory directions where the credentials are cached, don't let it go unless they are signed process with certain characteristics. Here discussions start about the Mimikatz creator and systems people. The Mimikatz creator says, okay, you can take Mimikatz, sign it with an entity who knows the operating system or trusts it, and it's done this way. But this will be for APT attacks where people are spending some money and they have their process well signed.
Now we have 2012 R2. think I have the time. If I do this here, mimic art. Okay, nothing new under the sun. Directly using Mimikatz in server 2012, we can do this. But if we enable the registry key,
Que aquí tengo que estar reiniciando máquina.
I need to restart the machine. You need to allow me for another 5 minutes, Roman. Everything's okay for the time being. My talk is very complicated. Now this has been enabled, so the LSA, when someone asks the LSA, give me the address memory, the memory addresses where you have these credentials encoded. So debugging privilege. Okay, take a look at this. The system here is giving it 05, which is access rejected. Okay, too bad. "10 minutes, man." Protection against exploits. We have a lot. We have ASLR, DEP, UEP, MIC. The registry goes into a number of keys so that there's no code injection. And there's no exception abuse. The system, the operating system, by definition, any operating system, cannot go into those exceptions that are not managed by a developer. When a developer writes code, if the application has a code exception, that should be managed by the developer, not by the operating system. Everything the operating system does is to give them routes that the developer can follow to manage the exceptions. And with that code, with that memory dump, you will be able to debug whatever problem comes up. If we find an exploit that overwrites something into memory and uses buffer overflows or something like that to run code, what the operating system does nowadays,
¿Sabes? Que ya están incluidas en EMET, por ejemplo.
has keys, like for example this one. This is a registry key that has been there since Windows Server 2008, and I think from one of the first releases actually. With this registry chain, you're forcing the operating system, and this can be applied to the process or to the entire operating system. You can tell the operating system, look, any exception the process may have, manage it yourself. So what the operating system will do is to take the exception and not let anyone overwrite it. The system will say, no, I'll take care of this. There's many exploits out there that should stop working with this technique. So I open up another VM. Here we go to a potential failure for the operating system. Here we have a very old exploit with a very old application. In this case, for example, if you take a look at the top, Foxit in earlier versions, in very old versions for something, had a buffer overflow in the document title, and there is an exploit. If it works okay, opens up a gate that we can use. to get into the system.
Windows un mojón. Vale, pues si cogemos la clave.
So if we take the registry key, and we enable it, these are changes that I need to implement at the level of the kernel, so you need to restart the operating system, okay? These changes are not applied at the user level.
Fijaos que cuando yo ahora, supuestamente,
So in theory, when I start the exploit,
me dice, oye,
it tells me there is a process in Windows which is the one in charge of caching that exception. And since it doesn't get to that memory address, it doesn't open it. In terms of user experience, what happens? Well, the application will fail and the guy will call the IT department. It's up to the company, really, to decide upon those risks they can take. This registry key has been introduced within MED. It was introduced some time ago. So this can be rolled out in a more friendly way. With that, I'm basically done. Okay, with this one. If, for example, even in that situation where we apply protections, someone comes along and gets rid of everything they want in the environment, when these things happen, we need tools to do audits. Audits in companies, and I'm not just talking about defense audits, I'm talking about file audits or procedure audits, are very beneficial for the companies because they help us describe habits and patterns within the companies. Auditing also helps answering questions. Yeah, I have the time. They also help us give answers to questions which otherwise we couldn't give answers to. Why not? Well, because we don't have the answer, or because they don't give us the answer. For example, we may launch now a question, an open question, to you. I'm sure I will get no answer from anyone. For example, who is the anonymous guy writing from the dark side? There's one there, but I cannot see his face. You know, the dark side or the evil side is where anonymous people write as if there were no tomorrow. No one ever answered. That's what audits are for, to respond to questions we have no answers for. When there is a change, we will have those two attributes, for example. When managing an incident, because someone has intruded into our system, they have declared themselves as administrators and they have caused damage. We have an Active Directory, and we don't do this because of security, we do this for replication. When you change something in the Active Directory, the Active Directory needs to manage that change. When we have an Active Directory replied in different locations throughout the world, the Active Directory needs to know when a user has been added to a group and when a user has been deleted. But this is not for security purposes. This is one of the features in the service in order to do replication properly. So these characteristics can be applied to define or to hunt down the attackers or to just give responses to the questions. I designed a tool last year, which I have upgraded in the last few months. because it was very buggy. It's called Voya. You've probably seen it before. It allows me to do a number of things. It allows me to, for example, export information from an Active Directory so that we can do an audit. This is a tool that I have updated significantly. It didn't have any plugins at the beginning. We can add all those elements that we need to add. There are threads, so the tool is now much quicker. It can be used in boxes that are outside of the domain. This is something I've used very often when doing audits. It generates reports. If I have Kivana and I need to send information, I can go straight into here because information is there, structured in JSON, for example. It will allow me to send the information to wherever we want to. We have it in XML as well, so there's a number of formats available. It's CSV, obviously. So that this can be used as an input for other applications. Even so, we might have a situation where after an incident, we need to generate a report really quickly. So I have enabled Excel. Let's call the auditor Pato, duck in Spanish. If this runs okay, no demo effects so far. Here we would get a call and they would say, what the hell are you doing? So we would respond, well, we're generating a report. How long will it take? 3 weeks. Then we would sit down, get a coffee, get a drink. So with this, what you can do is to generate the report really quickly to any client. A report delivered by Pato, where you include a number of things automatically. User volumetry, a chart of privileged users, leaks in group policies. Well, you can include whatever. At the administrator level, we will have a list of all the changes implemented in that Active Directory. For example, we can take a look at this. We can take a look at this. This is a user. At a certain point in time, on the 16th of February, someone called evil user got into the enterprise admin group. So we can give an answer to our client because they need an answer. They need an answer badly. So this is what we can provide them with. We can check privileges. So we'll be able to deliver the information requested by customer really quickly. And with that, I'm done. Okay? Operating systems are highly configurable. You have lots of services that allow you to have them signed. And then conclusions in a report, mitigation measures. We need to underline this because this is what clients will acknowledge very clearly. They will acknowledge our expertise because in many situations this is a big problem. What else could I say? Defensive security is so cool.
Enhorabuena.
Pasado tiempo.
Preguntas.
Questions? I have one myself, but there's one from the floor. You get the microphone. Well, first of all, thank you very much. Oh, thank you for listening. Thank you, especially because of that approach on defensive mechanisms, because you've gone over to the blue side. I have two questions. The first one, moving to the blue side, is it because you're growing older? Because some of us have blue in our hearts, but we are surprised to see that some of you senior hackers are going over to the blue side. Serbi, don't ask the question. He said, at the end, I'll ask you, what do you spend your time on? I spend my time on the offensive side. In my heart, I'm a system administrator. I've been a system administrator for a long time, and I will go back to that job in the future. No problem. So this talk is really a tribute to those systems administrators that have to cater for so many different technical needs and so much stuff. Two doubts. The data you got from the Active Directory were from the log. That was from the NTDS. In the NTDS itself, you have the schema for the Active Directory, and in that schema, you have all those attributes. In that case, what I do with the script is to check up on the attributes, see the flag for changes, and the Active Directory, with all the changes that have been implemented, by default stores it for 240 days off the top of my head, and you can ask. So by default in the script, regarding changes in administrative groups, I have defined 120 days. Give me all the changes for the last 120 days. And all of these utilities will be published. You'll publish them? Yes, in fact, I published the tool, but with a much earlier version. That was very buggy. I'm now revamping the tool. It will be published in 2 months. And those scripts you showed will be published as well, yes. And finally, on the blue side, when you have those type of tools, how do you tackle the IT departments when you approach them? Well, in incident response, things are simpler because the system has been hacked. They're very nervous because they've been hacked. When they see someone giving them light at the end of the tunnel, they will give you access to anything. If we talk about security directors, cybersecurity directors, there are lots of people out there, including people in this room, and whenever changes are requested, they will not let you. That is the big problem. These procedures should be made much more agile. Do we have silver bullet for them? How do we give them a compelling argument? Because I talk to my colleagues and they look at me as if I was the little boy in The Sixth Sense. They put a really weird face, they look at you. CryptoLocker comes along and you say, oh, I'm so happy I have an opportunity to deploy new things. Well, there's hatred. There's hatred in your words. Man, there's some hatred in your words. So when have a CryptoLocker getting into an organization, I've seen people crying, to be honest. At that time, people become aware immediately. But we need to make people aware ourselves as well. This is part of our duty. But above all, what we cannot say is that we need to approach this as if they have been attacked already. We need to be there in a preventive role so that this can never happen. That's how we should present ourselves to our customers. Thank you very much. Juan? With the issue of whitelisting of applications and signed application, how do you manage that when you have 100,000 employees? Where people are installing printers, downloading software that they say they need for working. It is not just a technical problem blocking the application. How about managing this? Well, if you saw what I did, I didn't block anything and I didn't use any whitelists. In exploiting, I said, if an application fails because there is an exception, just shut down. Microsoft has an utility called PPLocker, which focuses along the lines of what you mentioned. PPLocker has a functionality which is monitoring, not blocking, not blocking. It monitors the information And based on that, we will determine what to do in the mid to long term. These are not short-term things, and you know this well. But then you have another set of tools to catalog the processes, to catalog the applications, and so on and so forth. Hard work, hard work. And then having your systems updated at all times. For example, most of the things I've done wouldn't work in Windows 7. And having an updated version of the operating system in all the boxes is a difficult thing. One more question, and then we go to the break. Serbi? Right, so we're going to the break. Thank you.